All right, so welcome. Hello, everyone. My name is John Walicki, and I am a IBM Developer Advocate. I travel around the country, and I speak at conferences. I mentor at workshops. I mentor at hackathons. I teach workshops. I love to come and talk to developers. I love to talk about Watson and AI, talk about IoT. So I'm an IoT guy. And so tie a thing, generate some data, get it up to the cloud, do some analytics on it, look for insights, the machine learning wrapped around the thing, right? Because IBM is not creating sensors anymore, but we are generating lots and lots of data that we can go and do interesting things with. So anomaly detection for industrial systems, for building insights, for connected cars. And we want to apply artificial intelligence to it, machine learning. So the intersection of Java, the various SDKs that we have available with IoT, with Watson AI, become really interesting. And so frankly, we're talking about building a Java framework wrapped around visual recognition. And so we have a visual recognition service. I'll talk about that one. And there's an SDK which we have that kind of wraps the API, and so your meta framework can call into that one, right? So the hope, I think, what your desire is to have a shim above TensorFlow, above Watson SDK, above the Azure toolkits and the Google toolkits, etc. So that's brilliant, right? But we'll dive in a little bit to the various parts of the Watson SDKs over the next 30 minutes or so. I know some of you are probably hungry, certainly I am. So let's get started. And so let's see how this is going to work. So not a lot of slides. And matter of fact, it's all going to be demo. It will be about the code, and I find that developers would much prefer looking at the code, talking about the various services that we have available, how you might put them together in interesting ways. So what I did is I pulled out a couple of different SDKs that might be of interest today to you. And I'll leave them on the screen for just a minute. We'll talk about them. So first, Watson IoT platform, whether you're coming at it from Java or from Node.js or JavaScript, or you want to create Python, we've got a whole variety of language support. It uses MQTT to send packets from the thing to the cloud. And MQTT is a standardized protocol for encapsulating packet data and, as a broker, pub sub, getting it up to, in our case, the Watson IoT platform. And so we wrote a couple of libraries wrapped around it. They are in the IBM Watson IoT Git repository, which we have there. We'll navigate there. We'll find a Java SDK, and we'll look at that over the next couple of minutes. Then we're going to jump over to Watson Developer Cloud, because that is a cool set of examples and frameworks on top of all of our AI services. We'll talk about the AI services, and then we'll say, okay, what do I do with this service? How do I consume it? How do I embed it into my program? Because the AI service by itself, visual recognition or language translation or speech to text or tone analyzer or personality insights, they're just APIs. Now, how you build an app around it is somewhat the magic sauce. And so we try to make it easier with libraries. Okay? And then I built myself a little workshop that I've done, which we don't have time for today, but I encourage you to go take a look at the workshop if you're interested in Internet of Things. All right. So, how many of you have heard of the IBM Cloud? It used to be called Bluemix. Few of you have heard of Bluemix. Well, cool. So it's undergoing a continuing transformation as we add more services to it. the IBM Cloud. We've got about 150 different services that you can go and build into your frameworks, both IBM and third-party products now hosted as part of the IBM Cloud Catalog. So I've got the catalog open here, and you notice that there is an AI category, and I'll just scroll through some of them just to talk about what you might find in the AI category. So, and I'll point out the ones that are interesting to the Java framework. So we've got language translation, we have machine learning, natural language understanding. So some of those two are obvious. Natural language understanding allows you to do text analytics. So given a body of text, tell me what are the important keywords, give me entities, and show me, sort of do the summarization of that body of text and actually extract meaning out of it. Okay, so that's natural language understanding. What you notice in some of our cases, we wind up stringing these things together. So natural language understanding becomes a building block for tone analyzer, for personality insights, for Watson Conversation, which was previously called Watson. Basically, it's the Watson chatbot. It's undergone 4 name changes. So it used to be Watson Conversation, Watson Dialogue, now it's called Watson Assistant. And so you can build, using a construction of these APIs, a whole set of higher level things. So that's natural language understanding. Personality insight, so this is interesting. There's a whole bunch of psychology, and I'm not a psychologist, but there's this whole range of a human emotion, all right? So anger and fear and disgust and joy. And so as we talk, whether it's with a chatbot or with another human, you express through your words various sets of emotions. And we can adjust the chatbot if we can get a sense for, hey, you're angry about some product recall, or maybe you're angry at the airlines for whatever, right? We can kind of detect that, although I think that should just be the default box, right? You're always chatting and angry at the airplanes. So this personality insights lets you build some more human understanding around your interaction, the machine to human. Speech to text, text to speech are pretty obvious. So translating to a couple of different languages, and also quite a few, 9 different languages we can do speech to text to. Visual recognition, so it's given an image, can you tell me what's in it? And so Watson, the default classifier knows 12,000 objects. It knows 3,000 foods. And you can build custom classifiers to look for things. So you have to upload a zip file, which, the API lets you do. You upload a zip file and say, this is a custom class for flooded neighborhoods. And this is a custom class for neighborhoods that look fine. And this is a custom class of survivors on rooftops. And so I was just at a hackathon over the weekend up at MIT, and we trained a visual recognition model. We gave it flooded neighborhoods with just green grass and regular neighborhoods, and survivors on rooftops. And we asked the AI system to find. So now that was the training set. Here was a new set using drone imagery. We were able to find survivors on rooftops autonomously. So it was a lot of fun. All right, so that's how you might apply the service to solve a real-world problem. And one of the things that IBM is doing most recently is called Call for Code. And Call for Code is a partnership with the United Nations Human Rights Office, the American Red Cross, IBM, and Linux Foundation to actually try to solve some of the hardest problems around natural disasters. How do we mitigate and reduce some of the human costs of natural disasters, for both being prepared during and after natural disasters? So a great example up at MIT of how we might look for survivors on rooftops. That was visual recognition. All right, so I'm going to jump over to Internet of Things, and I'll do a quick example of the Internet of Things platform. So IBM has a giant MQTT messaging pipe, and we just suck all this data from millions of devices, and we can redirect it to your platform. And you can actually now watch your data sets coming from industrial systems all around the world. So I don't have one of those with me, but I've got a simulator, so we'll do some simulator stuff. And so there's remember I mentioned the SDKs, and so we've got a whole set of Watson IoT SDKs, Java being one of them. And so I drilled down, and my workshop kind of walks you through how to take this set of libraries and build some interesting things with it. So we're going to define some devices, and we can now do gateway devices. So it turns out edge computing is this hugely, so we talk about cloud, and then we talk about all the data and the analytics, and it sounds great, because that's what IBM wants to sell you. But at the end of the day, we don't really want millions of temperature readings being streamed up to the clouds. Not interesting, right? It's only interesting when it changes, or it hits some thresholds, or some anomaly occurs on the edge. And if you could run the sensor at the edge and do some processing at the edge, and then only send the anomaly behaviors up to the cloud, that's a better story, right? Saves bandwidth, saves processing, and turns out on the edge, in your gateway, Java is a great platform for that, right? Because now because you not only on the edge, but you want to push and manage that device. So we've got a whole set of managed device commands that lets you push down Java updates to your edge processor. So that's a fun way to manage your edge computing infrastructures. The whole library here goes through how to do it, and so I've actually followed those instructions. So we'll just jump over. What I'm going to do is, since I couldn't get a good screen resolution, I'm going to show you that I've got it running here. Let's go open that up. Oh, that's horrible. That's enough. All right, so if I wanted to generate data from the edge, from my laptop, and send it up to the cloud, there's the library mentioned, and so we're going to start to send data to the cloud. Here we go, publishing successful. All right, so now we're monitoring the CPU of my laptop, and we're sending that data up to Quick Start. So I want to actually now see the data as it's being sent to the cloud, and I've got that in a tab over here. Let's jump over to Quick Start. So here is, so in IoT platform, we have this concept of Quick Start. Now, Quick Start is a great demonstration. You would never do this in production. It has unencrypted data. If you knew the name of my device, John Walicki 343, you would be able to watch all my data as it arrives. So it's a great example of, hey, I connected a device, I'm getting sensor readings from it, and I want to track CPU and memory from my laptop. Now, in a real-world production environment, you would obviously take that packet and TLS encrypt it with client certificates and server certificates so that endpoints know that they're talking to servers and servers know they're talking to clients. And you would encrypt that whole thing. Because one thing we're finding with IoT is everyone in the rush to get to production kind of cuts those corners on security. And I just encourage people to spend the time. As enterprise developers, we all know how important security is. And we're trying to now teach this next generation of IoT developers how important security is. They say, well, it's too hard, my thing is small, I don't want to do the processing. You have to, right? So don't use Quick Start for anything other than to prove connectivity. The library itself walks you through how to set up SSL certificates. All right, so that is a little bit of IoT platform. Now, how does that work? So I jump over to IoT platform itself, and I've got a whole set of devices. So here I've kind of built, I've lost connectivity. So hopefully it'll come back. Well, I've got a whole set of devices loaded, and I just refresh the page. Hopefully my mobile hotspot will come back to life. It didn't. Okay, so what we can do is we can go deploy, and I do see it running here. So we can take that device. So now remember I was sending it to Quick Start. I actually want to shift it over into the IoT platform, and here I've got a Node-RED flow that actually is sending the data. Here's my laptop's connected here. It's listening in on that device, John Walicki 343, and I'm now going to plot that data, just in my case, just to debug, and I'm going to do like a little safety alert, look for anomalies in some thresholds. So that the data being arriving, I can go watch any particular one of them and graph the CPU cycles. So that's data arriving in IoT platforms. That was interesting to watch. Now, once the data's there, you can write it to CloudInt, or a database of your choosing, DashDB or many others, and then start to do historical time series analysis on it. That's typically what you do with IoT data, is time series analysis. I pull it into Watson Studio in a Jupyter notebook, and whether I'm running Python or Java there, I can actually start to do detection on and look for anomalies. All right. Let's jump over to the AI parts of this. And I mentioned that we have Watson Developer Cloud, and that's a set of toolkits and libraries wrapped around our AI services. Now, each one of the things in the catalog, if you were to drill down on one of them, there's all sorts of documentation in it. So let's go pick up the language translator. And if I go view the docs, I can figure out how to use this API, and it typically will tell me how to use. So here's the API reference. Now the fun thing about it is it tells you how to do it, right? Authentication using the API keys, but then it gives you example code. All right, it tells you how to do it just from the command line with curl, with Node, with Java, and with Python. And so it actually gives you examples. It actually takes advantage of the Watson Developer Cloud Toolkit to actually show you how to take that piece of API and put it in your program. It's not just, hey, this is a cool API, woohoo, I'm using AI. It's how do you embed it into your application becomes interesting. And so we've got examples right in the docs to help you do that. We do have a whole set of recipes and IBM code patterns that will show you how to embed the API into some meaningful application. So what I did...
John, quick interruption. What version compatibility does it have with OpenJDK or
So, I think I scrolled too fast beyond it. It was Java 7 and Java 8.
I mean, it's just SDK version. It's not, I guess.
Yes.
Java 7, Java 8, it wasn't previously.
It was on a previous
Yeah.
You know what, I think I have to hit the back
That's
button.
why I was confused because this so. This
No, it was on your GitHub.
Oh, it was right on my GitHub, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Java
there it
7
is.
Java.
Right, so that's at least in the IoT platform case. In the case of Watson Studio, go find that page, this one here. I don't know if they've tried it with Java 10 yet. I know they're doing commits all the time. There was a commit. These are commits as of like a couple of days ago. So they are always doing updates. We can go read the release doc. Oh, no, that's the patch file. Sorry. So most of our stuff is all in Git repository, so you can go watch what we're doing and send patches. So the actual toolkit, if you can't see it, I'll make it a little bit bigger. But the actual toolkit takes you through a Watson Assistant, Watson Conversation, Watson Discovery, the language translator, natural language classifier, understanding, person. So if you want to go and build with any of these services, we've got full-on examples in almost every case that you would go and construct. And so that's what I did. I kind of said, okay, show me some examples. And I kind of went through it. I went up to the IBM Cloud platform and I built myself a Java Liberty Cloud Foundry instance. I provisioned that on IBM Cloud, and now it's called JavaSIG-Walicki, and so it's running up in the IBM Cloud somewhere, I think in Dallas. I can add availability zones, so IBM, like many other cloud providers, we've got availability zones in lots of different countries to comply with GDPR and for failover and fault tolerance. So you can say US East and US South, and give me one in Australia if you wanted to do an internet scale application. Certainly that's what the cloud lets you do. But in my simple little example, I've just got one instance, and I constructed all set of other APIs, so I wanted to tie it to Watson Conversation and natural language understanding. And so I created instances of these services, and I bound them into my Java SDK, right? Because I want to maybe go experiment with how I could build applications to use some of those. So to do that effectively, let me just show you one other thing on this board here. We've got this idea of continuous delivery. So this whole build and run deploy, it becomes CI/CD pipelines. And so you notice down at the bottom, I can go view my tool chain. And so in the tool chain, I've got a delivery pipeline and Eclipse in the cloud. I've got a Git issue repository, and I've got Git itself. So I can go and edit code up in IBM Cloud. It's actually an instance of Git Lab. So I can go and look at GitLab, or I can fork it, and I brought it down to my laptop, wherever that was. And another tab here. So I have that repository on my laptop, and I can do a Git, Git push and a commit and an add, right? And so I can now push from my laptop up to the cloud, and what it does is says, oh, there's an update. So that's still the Git repository. So here's the CDI build. And so as I was doing pushes, it was doing a build, running the build stage, and then deploying it to the cloud over time. So I eventually got it right after a bunch of build failures. And so here was my app. I started off with hello world, and I said I wanted to translate it to a couple of different languages. So there was, I was just giving it different strings. And so I was experimenting with the language translation service. building it on my laptop, or actually writing the code on my laptop, pushing it to the cloud, and then having it do the translation there. Now, this is not a real app, it was just me experimenting with one of the services. And you could, easily now take this code. So I happen to be an Atom person. You guys are all maybe Eclipse IDE people, but I use Atom, and that's again probably way too small for you all. So I used, that's a little bit better, and I used the SDK. Let's start at the top, and I import the Watson Developer Cloud language translator service into my Java sample here, and I wanted to just run a simple little web server. I pass it a string, right? Hello, welcome to New York City, and I want to translate from English to Spanish, and then I get it back and I display it on the web page. So it was an easy set of examples that I just pulled right out of the sample kit, and I showed you how to do that. Okay? And then once I hit save, I was able to run the whole app here. All right. So now you've got that going. We do have a whole set of code patterns that you can go and read through. I just encourage folks to do that. We have a whole set of edge analytics and edge services. So this one I pulled out. I just noticed some of the examples here that I've used in the past to do edge analytics with Java. You can find a whole bunch of examples to do that. All right, and I'm going to end with just a desire to have you guys take your expertise in Java and add in these AI services. You can make your applications become much more interactive through a chatbot, through a natural language understanding, through the visual recognition service. The one I just recently built, this was an interesting one. I jumped over to flooded neighborhoods. And I trained on suburban neighborhoods and flooded neighborhoods, and I had a detect flooded neighborhoods, and so I built a couple of custom classes for that. And if I go browse one of my data sets, I've been playing with my drone a lot, so I've been having fun with my drone. I got some test data here, and I can pick a bunch of those. Let's just see what Watson thinks. So here's visual recognition. So at 83% confidence, Watson Studio Visual Recognition, this particular model, the custom model, said yes, this has a flood. Pretty clear on that one that it has a flood. And just keep scrolling here. And you'll notice, so Watson, some of the AI services are pretty clever. So now this one, not a flood, right? It's got more green to it. There's obviously grass, not flood waters. And so it's a low confidence score on flooding, right? So you see the confidence score, it actually says, no, I don't see a flood in that picture. And that's what your test data should really tell you about. I thought it was really clever when the MIT guys took this set of data set that I had and they added on another one looking for the survivors on rooftops. That was kind of cool. So if you're going to build an AI a toolkit, this is the types of things you might be able to do. I was doing it with some drone data. All right. So I'll take some questions maybe about Watson AI and how you might tie it to using the Java toolkits to really make your applications much more rich.
Is there a client using this? A client or case, like someone is,
Oh, do we have clients using
Yeah.
the AI? Absolutely, yes. Quite a few are, well, using across all the AI services, but using Java for sure.
Is the price compatible with AWS for the machine learning?
Yeah, so now, of course, it depends on what service you're talking about, right? The hosting, whether it's hosting a web server or a Java server or a database. The AI services are all priced differently, so in the case of visual recognition, it's some fractions of a penny. There's actually a free tier, so I encourage everyone to sign up for the IBM Cloud. There's a free tier, it's called IBM Cloud Lite. You don't have to put your credit card in. We never ask you for money. It's a completely free tier. Now, of course, there are caps to it, so it's 1,000 image recognitions per month. You can train 2 custom models. If you want to train more custom models, give us your credit card, and you can train as many models as you want. In the free tier, you can do, most of the services have like an example that you can really start to experiment with. And we do a lot of that at hackathons, where the students just build a weekend hack or in the free tier without ever you've given us their credit card. Right? If you wanted to build real machine learning models with Kubernetes clusters, yeah, then we're going to actually spin up real hardware for you. We do require, and it's not expensive in most cases. So a question about
You mentioned the edge analytics stuff, and it looks like from the diagram here that you have like an IoT gateway that you run on premises. What does that look like?
So the IoT gateway, so it's actually,
Yeah, something we buy from you, or is that something you just run on any hardware?
yeah, so we don't sell the hardware anymore. We've got other partners. So Intel is great, and ST Micro is great, and a whole bunch of partners now running Linux on the edge, and then we add on top our framework plus Java to actually run edge analytics. Maybe we've actually done that with Dell IoT and others.
So it's any particular, like, do you run this in your home at all?
So I do have a whole bunch of edge gateways in my home. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, running Raspberry Pi on a Raspberry Pi.
So what's the licensing fees for that?
So the Raspberry Pi is $35, and then Linux, and then just runs a little small Debian distribution. The actual toolkit themselves, in most cases, are free. Since I have my Watson account, I do a whole bunch of Java. Let's see if did that come back to life? The one that fell over. The only page that I tried to refresh. My hotspot didn't survive. Select an org. Which org was it? Here we go. Yeah, it's not going to come back to life. Sorry. I do have my edge analytics in one of my IoT platform instances. Other questions?
So that example, for the example, so how many images did it take to train?
Yeah, so incredibly small, like 15.
Altogether 15.
Well, 15 for the flood, 15 for, so here's, I'll show you it. Over here. Projects. Flood your neighborhoods. So what you do is you create a project and you upload these zip files. And so the zip file contains, here it is. Here's my data set. So in the case here, so I've got 23 images of floods and 13 images of things that are not floods, right? And So I was trading off, in the case of, I was doing wildfire burn neighborhoods, because I'm doing drones, so I was, drones out. And so I picked 17 burned neighborhoods and 15 normal suburban neighborhoods, and you'd be surprised how good the accuracy is just on small sample sets. So pretty clever. All right, so thanks everyone. Frank, thanks for inviting us. Thanks, John.